and thanks for joining us. This is Amhara Media Corporation, Amhara TV News. I am Gaila Damu. Stay with us. Peace Minister Mufariat Kamil said that the terrorist TPLF is spreading contradictory false information as he claimed enough food is ready for its terrorist militants, while it said famine happened in Tigray region. Brown Workna reports.
Ministry of Peace Mufariat Kamil said the use of famine as a tool is a special manifestation of the terrorist TPLF group since its inception. She said the spokesperson of the terrorist TPLF group is condemning as the government of Ethiopia prohibited the humanitarian aid not to be entered to Tigray region so as to get humanitarian aid from the international community. In her press briefing, Mufariat said before the government declared humanitarian ceasefire, the government has stored food items affordable for 2 months in Tigray region. It is stated that the food item has been covered by the expense of the government and aid organizations working in Ethiopia. Mufariat further stated that the government transported over 18,000 metric tons of food items after the government has declared humanitarian ceasefire in Tigray region. On the other hand, recently, the state media of Tigray disclosed that wide range of logistics supplies being prepared to the terrorist TPLF fighters.
We're seeing that the people are mobilized to prepare ample amount of food for the militia of Tigray, while they are complaining that there are people who are dying of hunger. This is contradictory.
In her press briefing, Ministry of Peace Mufariat Kamil said the terrorist TPLF is accusing and complaining, saying that the government has prohibited aid assistance from the international community, and she said this accusation is baseless and unfounded to the government of Ethiopia. She also said the terrorist TPLF has not moral to accuse the government of Ethiopia by now.
We know that the very nature of TPLF making hunger as instrument of war, not the federal government. That's the inherent nature of TPLF. The background, the history can tell this.
Mufariat stated after the government has declared humanitarian ceasefire and withdraws the National Defense Force from Tigray region, 528 trucks loaded humanitarian assistance have reached Mekelle city.
Meanwhile, Ministry of Peace said that about 528 trucks loaded with food and non-food items have arrived in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. Abeba Brahane tells us more.
Minister of Peace Mufariat Kamil briefed the media yesterday on the current humanitarian aid coordination activities in Tigray, Afar and Amhara regions. She noted that, following the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire, the government of Ethiopia continued to coordinate and deliver food and non-food items, including fuel, through 6 humanitarian partners who are operating in Tigray region. According to the minister, some 528 trucks have arrived in the region since the declaration of the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire. The trucks have arrived in Tigray with more than 14,000 metric tons of food and 4,000 metric tons of non-food items, as well as various medicines.
We have transported 14,000 metric tons of food items and 4,000 metric tons of non-food items. Apart from those transported through air, these are transported through land.
Furthermore, she stated that the number of checkpoints between departure points and destination is reduced to enable efficient transit of humanitarian assistance, which shows the commitment of the federal government in facilitating humanitarian access. It was indicated that the humanitarian operation being carried out in the affected areas is coordinated by the Ministerial Committee of the National Emergency Coordination Center. However, she stated that the terrorist TPLF's repeated attack and continued intrusion into the Afar and Amhara regions, as well as the blockage of humanitarian corridors, have worsened the situation by impeding the government's humanitarian aid activities to Tigray region.
And we're closely working with the Afar regional government. It's TPLF who is choking the checkpoints, the humanitarian corridor. It's not us, because TPLF is frequently attacking people who are living in Amhara as well as in Afar.
She stressed that the terrorist TPLF has no moral to blame the federal government for blockage of humanitarian assistance, as it is the one that has been engaged in a continued provocative acts disrupting the smooth flow of humanitarian trucks into the region.
We know that the very nature of TPLF, making hunger as instrument of war, not the federal government. That's the inherent nature of TPLF. No moral for TPLF to blame the federal government.
She indicated that a large number of trucks that had entered in Tigray carrying aid have not returned in accordance with the established procedures. According to Minister of Peace, the government is allowing the humanitarian organizations to channel cash into Tigray to be used for their operation. So far, 28 UN agencies and international NGOs are granted approval to transport cash to the region. Speaking on the humanitarian situation in Afar and Amhara, Mufariat said due to the repeated attacks by the terrorist TPLF on civilians on the two regions, about 4.5 million people are affected, while more than 500,000 people are displaced.
About 4 million people are vulnerable and affected by the war in Amhara as well as in Afar region. And about 500,000 people are displaced from their origin and from their home. And the number will vary because we're trying to verify the number continuously, and there are plus and minuses. So we're trying to work with other international organizations so as to have enough amount of supply both for these two regions. The government is supplying since first week of August. Now we're trying to bring more partners who are working on humanitarian activities.
She urged the international humanitarian partners to take the necessary caution to ensure that aid distribution to the people in need is properly addressed.
Residents of Addis Ababa have vowed to protect the unity, sovereignty and national integrity of Ethiopia by deterring the ongoing internal and external pressures to dismantle the country. Fikradi Zaudu has more.
The residents made the remark at a public gathering held yesterday in the capital at Meskel Square to mark the Day of Ethiopianism. Various messages that depict the importance of national unity, togetherness and harmony to ensuring the sovereignty and future prosperity of Ethiopia were conveyed at the event. During the occasion, the participants have expressed their readiness to stand together with the government in its effort to protect the sovereignty and national integrity of Ethiopia. Speaking to Ethiopian News Agency, Priest Bekoye Meseret said that external powers in collaboration with internal agents have tried to destabilize Ethiopia for many years. However, Ethiopians in unison have resisted all these conspiracies and kept its sovereignty. He urged the current generation to protect the sovereignty, unity and national integrity of Ethiopia by repeating the heroic acts of its forefathers. He further stressed the need to further strengthen national unity in order to ensure peace and prosperity of the country by leaving aside differences among Ethiopians, urging all Ethiopians to contribute their part in the effort to safeguard the unity, integrity and sovereignty of the country.
የተለያዩ ዓለማት
Various foreign powers had tried to invade Ethiopia in several occasions in order to weaken and destabilize the nation so as to attain their political and economic gains, but they had not able to realize their dreams. Ethiopia had never been defeated and instead continued as a sovereign state thanks to its patriotic forefathers.
A resident of Addis Ababa, Freyot Makonnen, said that she had sent her 20-year-old son to join the Ethiopian National Defense Force and vowed to do everything necessary with her capacity to safeguard the survival of Ethiopia and sustain its unity and sovereignty. It is to be recalled that Ethiopians across the nation have been expressing support to the government in the National Defense Force in their efforts being undertaken to tackle the heinous acts of the terrorist TPLF to dismantle the nation.
Ethiopian Ministry of Science and Higher Education and the University of South Africa have agreed to further strengthen their cooperation in the development of education in Ethiopia. Fikradi Zaudu has the details.
The University of South Africa opened its regional learning center in Addis Ababa in 2007, mainly focusing on postgraduate studies. A delegation led by University of South Africa Principal and Chancellor Professor Pulang Linkabula held discussions with officials of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education. During the occasion, the two have discussed on various issues of common concern and ways to enhancing the existing cooperation in the sphere of education. Higher education relevance and quality Agency Deputy Director Tamrat Mota noted University of South Africa has been contributing a lot in producing high-level scholars to fill the human resource gap being observed in the newly established universities in the country. The Deputy Director added that the two sides in their discussion have agreed to continue the partnership.
Our agency, which is Higher Education, Relevance and Quality Agency, is working to monitor and assist quality of education. So the university should be screened based on our criteria to be in our system and expand its working areas. We also discussed the measurement and evaluation process that will take place regarding this education platform.
According to him, an agreement was also reached to revise the curriculum of the university based on the existing Ethiopian human resource needs. University of South Africa Principal and Chancellor Professor Pulang Linkabula on her part stressed the need to further enhance cooperation between South Africa and Ethiopia to enhancing the human capital in Ethiopia. She noted that University of South Africa has been working over the last 10 years providing knowledge to Ethiopian students focusing on PhD and master's programs. According to her, University of South Africa's mission is linked with Agenda 2063 of the African Union Development Program that aspire integration among countries in the continent with a view of ensuring prosperity.
Now we have found the support of Moshe and Dr. Samuels, and we would like to ensure that we improve and strengthen UNISA's impact in Ethiopia, but also in the Horn of Africa. We think Ethiopia is best placed as a partner in ensuring that UNISA does its mandate. We have students from all over the world as UNISA. We have 400,000 registered students at UNISA. We're one of the universities that is committed to Africa's advancement, development, economic flourishing, but also taking and steering our own development as Africans through knowledge, research, inventions and innovation.
Noting that University of South Africa has currently 400,000 registered students all over the world, she pointed out that the institution is one of the universities in Africa that aims at advancing the African continent. The University of South Africa Ethiopia Center also provides a variety of academic and administrative support to the students based in Ethiopia, some of whom are in the diplomatic missions stationed in Addis Ababa.
The Ethiopian Muslim scholar Sheikh Said Ahmed Mustafa has condemned the government of Egypt and Sudan as well as the Arab League for their approach to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam negotiations with Ethiopia in terms of religious thought and moral values. Andy Netanyahu reports.
The scholar told Ethiopian news agency that the stance of the countries in the League on the Dam is entirely flawed and against the Islamic thought that preaches equal utilization of common resources. Ethiopia is the source of most of the Abai River waters, he noted, adding that Egypt and Sudan have, however, been solely using the water resource for many decades. Unfortunately, the downstream countries still seek to continue exercising the water usage hegemony. He observed that Ethiopia has been trying hard to convince Egypt and Sudan that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will not cause significant harm on the downstream countries.
ونحن من هذا المنطلق ننصح إخواننا في السودان ومصر.
I advise Egypt and Sudan to calm down and refrain from accusing Ethiopia because Ethiopia has been repeatedly pledging that it would never harm its neighbors. As far as Ethiopian leaders do not breach the promise, the leadership of Egypt and Sudan should also stop being suspicious and refrain from taking the case to irrelevant countries.
ولا يتسرعوا في رفع القضايا والاتهامات إلى اليمين والشمال.
However, Egypt and Sudan have continued to engage in internationalizing the matter and obstruct the completion of the dam by coming up with the substantiated claims and misinformation.
أما رسالتي إلى الجامعة العربية.
My message to the Arab League is that interference on the issue is a mistake and unfair. It is none of their business. Even if the case was submitted to the Arab League, the League should have studied the issue very well before passing decision and taking a stand.
بدون ما تفهم وتدرس كيف أنت على جزاف تتكلم في قضايا الناس.
According to him, the Nile River is a gift of God and his servants across the region, and advised everyone to thank God for that and use it fairly. The scholar underscored any attempt to oppress others for the sake of achieving own interest is against the Islamic philosophy and has to be condemned. None of the Ethiopian leaders has done anything to harm Egypt and Sudan, he noted, stating that nothing bad has so far occurred to the downstream countries due to the construction of the dam. Sheikh Said said, Egypt and Sudan have to cooperate with the African Union to address their concerns with a view to reaching the lasting solution that benefits all the three countries. Sheikh Said said, Egypt and Sudan should also stop internationalizing the issue by trying to forward the matter to the United Nations Security Council as it is entirely an African matter. They have to come to the negotiation table led by the African Union. The scholar also criticized the meddling of the Arab League in the issue as it's completely biased and one-sided. Interventions of the Arab League is a fatal mistake and flagrant injustice that absolutely lacks understanding of the reality on the ground. The scholar stressed advising members of the League to engage in a constructive manner with a view to ensuring equal utilization of the resource by the people in the region. Sheikh Said Ahmed Mustafa is a prominent Ethiopian Muslim scholar who founded the Muslim Youth Organization. He returned home in 2018 from exile following the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's welcoming of exiled religious leaders.
You're watching Amhara Media Corporation, Amhara TV News, and now let's take a look at the foreign exchange rate and carat rate. That's all the news we have for today. I am Gaila Damu. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a great time.